Hello you veterans of YouTube, I'm Jonathan, also known as the PC Genie. Now quickly, I'd like you guys to give me more wishes and requests for videos on my channel. It helps me to come up with ideas and produce more content for you. I've actually had to go to Scalibrim's channel, I watched one of his live streams, and someone wished from him to ask about basically whether old people and young people fighting would use different weapons, what advantages and disadvantages they'd have, and the rest. So yes, if I could get more video requests, that would be ideal. But anyway, to the topic at hand, with regards to the types of weapons that younger or older people would be using, frankly I believe they would still use similar weapons. Now yes, someone who is younger, fitter, tougher, stronger, they have the advantage to be able to use items like, say, Dane axes, or even a big maul or something. They could use them faster, they'd be able to endure for longer wielding them, and they have an advantage when using them. However, when we're considering the fact that the older person probably isn't going to want to use a really difficult weapon, such as a very long gisarm or glaive or something that's, 10 foot long, or a giant Dane axe or something like that, really we're going to end up with both of them using the same weapons, because even if you are faster than usual, using something like a Dane axe, although such things are suitable for the battlefield amongst your ranks, in a one-on-one duel you really do need a lightweight and fast weapon, so you can give offense and provide defense as quickly and effectively as possible. So if we're talking about sometime like, say, the 1700s, we might be looking at, for example, small swords. If we're looking at perhaps the Anglo-Saxon times, we'd be looking at things like spears being used. Something two-handed, probably maybe about 6 or 7 foot, so not something too large and unwieldy, but not something so short that you've got to get completely close to use it. So again, although the person who is fitter could use something like a Dane axe or other heavier weapon more effectively, they would still have the best advantage using a lightweight and suitable weapon, such as a sword or a spear or something similar. Now, with regards to their individual advantages, it's an interesting scenario because you've got the classic experience versus youth. You've got, the skills versus fitness. Now, with regards to that, basically it would usually end up going one of two ways. Either you've got the person who is younger and fitter, and they've got more strength and stamina, all of those types of abilities, but they're a complete newbie, they're inept, they don't really know what they're doing, they're only familiar with their weapon in terms of they've been maybe using their knives and things for tool purposes, and they've had a bit of a feel, it's what my sword weighs and what it's like, I'm used to it, but they haven't really trained properly and professionally. They're going to be at a decisive disadvantage, because someone who is older, and again, is going to be using a decent weapon, something light and nimble, to catch up with someone trying to move around them, chase them and flank them, then at that point the old man can just make sure to, for example, with a spear, they can keep jabbing, keep the distance, and when a person tries to do things like charge in or take the weapon offline by just going and smashing it out of the way, that person who's got the experience knows what this person is trying to do. So for example, if I had my spear here, and the person's trying to go, and then charge in, then he sees that sword coming in and goes, dead. Whereas, on the other hand, the second scenario would be if the youngster actually does have training. So even if they're not as experienced, as much of a veteran as the old man, perhaps they're someone who's from nobility or from the lower ranks, and they've just been doing training with friends, they've never had to fight for their lives before, they haven't needed to do self-defense properly, maybe except a little barroom brawl, and the other person could maybe be a proper scarred veteran who's seen it all and done it all. However, at this point, when that youngster knows what they're doing, at least to some reasonable degree, then I personally believe that on average, the youngster has the decisive advantage, because this is one of the reasons why you see youngsters being equipped for the army. Fitness does make an extreme difference in a fight, and let's bear this in mind. People these days using firearms, they're using things like assault rifles. You've got the weight of the firearm to bear itself, but you don't have to use bayonets and things. You're not very likely to. All you have to do, really, is skills. So you've got to aim, you have your consistency, and pull the trigger and shoot. It's not even like using a bow. We've got to have a good bit of strength to keep a good draw weight and use a powerful bow. It's literally, you point the thing at the relevant target, you know, all the things that are relevant, your skills, are in your head. They're what you're doing with regards to skills and experience. And yet, they still equip people and deliberately train people who are young and fit and healthy. Because when you're moving around in an actual fight, whether it's one-on-one or whether it's in a battlefield, being able to be agile and nimble helps. And once you've trained them to at least some competency, then they can really keep themselves well defended in a fight. And hence, like I say, when you've got a reasonably trained youngster versus an old veteran, unfortunately that veteran's probably going down. One classic example of this is going to be in boxing, and there's going to be some revealers or spoilers, so I'll give you a chance to skip ahead now. In 3, 2, 1, okay, still here. One classic example of this from recent times is Vladimir Klitschko versus Anthony Joshua. Now, it was the same example. Vladimir was, you know, old and experienced. He was still quite fit. He wasn't, you know, completely out of shape like I am. And yet, you had Anthony Joshua, who's quite new to the game, but he was the example. He was the epitome of the young and tough type of person. And when they fought, although they certainly had a good bout, it wasn't a decisive victory. In the 11th round, there was a knockout of Vladimir Klitschko by Anthony Joshua. So that's one example of where you've got someone who is properly trained and knows what they're doing against someone who's a proper veteran of the art, and yet they'll be defeated by the person who's younger. So yes, that's that for today, and see you in our next video.